Hello and welcome to this Thursday's live Kriegspiel game. I am um, hosting it or recording it as a player, not as an umpire, and hopefully the sound works this time. We've gone like 3 recordings without sound because I bought a new headset and then kept forgetting to switch um, my recorder to capture the sound on that headset. So hopefully it's working this time. I've triple checked it. Um, So I'm on the French team. This is my map that I'm using to track things. Um, so it's not the master map, obviously, because I'm a player. I can't see that. So I'm just using it. So I'm on the French team. I'm Marshal Ney. I command my own 3rd Corps. I've got Junot reporting to me with the 7th Corps, slightly smaller 7th Corps, and then also a cavalry division, an additional cavalry division reporting to me. So I'm the right wing of the army. And as you can see by my beautiful arrows, we were gonna do a non-historical movement, which I was actually looking forward to trying. But we were gonna take Utitsa, ensure we took Utitsa, and then swung around from the south to take the Fletches, and maybe I don't know, even come from behind to do that. So kind of a southern flanking movement using the trees as cover. I was kind of excited to try that, but when Napoleon learned that the forest would disrupt the troops too much, which makes sense. He went for a more direct and historical approach. So we're basically going straight in. I'm attacking the flèches south of Semenovskaya, and Davuz north of me attacking the Great Redoubt. And we'll see if we can take them. So not too much decision making for me, at least early on. Napoleon's pretty well outlined what I need to do and when and who. Of course, that plan will dissolve as soon as we run into the enemy, but for my part, it's basically take the flèches at almost all cost with what I have. So we'll see if I'm successful. And I'm supposed to be drawing in the reserve of the enemy to my point, because I'll be one of the early attacks. So I will be taking on the bulk. We do have 2 more corps in Borodino and west of it that'll be moving in. So hopefully I draw the enemy south, while still also taking the flèches, and then we clear the way for those in the north to move up. So we'll see. And while I'm playing, I may also prepare for my open Saturday. Uh,
Hello,
Hello, umpire
Marshal Ney.
Tubaleki.
Yes, this is fair warning. This is the first time I've ever umpired, but it should be no problem. You have a very good system here. Um, okay. The men roll out to the deployments, and in the distance from your well-picked hill that you are on the ridge of, you can see what looks to be readouts. You can't quite tell what is beyond them.
Okay. You ready for my orders?
What are your orders?
So I want the 2 artillery that are in the south by the edge of the forest should move up to the top of that hill right in front of them and start firing on the flèches to their east.
Okay.
And I don't think I command any other artillery besides that. Well, that's in the front line. So um, that's
Yes.
that's it for now.
Okay. And that will be all.
That's it.
Excellent. As you wish, then let me just return to the other channel.
Yeah. So, what was I saying? Oh, this map was made by Chief. Pretty nice. I always appreciate when I don't have to make the maps. And there was, surprisingly, there was not a great Borodino map. Um, Often you can find something for free online um, that works pretty good, but there really wasn't. Um, I think that one blogger whose name I always forget. I bought my Antietam map from him. He may have made a Borodino map, and his maps are really good. Yeah, he did make one. His maps are really good looking, but yeah, of course he charges for them, so I can't pay for every map I have on a live game, or I'd be paying 30 to 40 bucks a week. Let's see. Yeah, so there are. I'm looking at the maps now. This one's an okay map. I like the how the terrain's depicted. It'd take a lot of work to get the unit markings off of this one. That'd be a pain. This one's too simple. Not enough terrain detail. There's another okay looking. Looks like you could buy it somewhere because they're selling it. Go down that rabbit hole. Yeah, whenever you see someone selling vintage art like that, so it's depicted Battle of Borodino. Somewhere it's free and they're taking it and or bought the license and are reselling it. Um, so like this one's, I think it's close to the Wikipedia one. It's all right, and then you could take off. It'd still be a fair amount of work to take off the units, but doable. I don't remember seeing that one when I looked before. That one would be okay if it weren't. No, there, it's not blurry anymore. That one's actually not bad. Again, a lot of units you'd have to clean off. Um, it's interesting looking at this versus the one that we have. So here's Utitsa. There's Borodino. Looks like it's not. It looks like it got smashed together slightly different. I, if I had to pick a style I like, I think I'd like this one. Of course, you'd color it with the woods and whatnot, but it does a decent job showing terrain. This one's obviously, it's very clear to see the different kinds of terrain, but I don't like that style. I wouldn't do that. But obviously, you can see there's no map that. Oh, it looks like Pub Battles has a map, or it has command post games, bunch of Pub Battles. So their map's probably super good looking. I mean, it looks really good, but I doubt you'd find that one for free anywhere. Period maps and war games. Oh, they have an article about. Sometimes you just gotta go down rabbit holes to find. Yeah, so this is. I've seen this before. Different maps of campaigns. So let's see. We're looking for Russia, Central Europe, Belgium. No. There it is. Campaign 12, Russia. Location of French ambulances. That doesn't help for the actual battle. No, these are Borodino. Let's see. So somewhere, I mean, I don't think they drew that themselves. Somewhere a map existed that they took for their own use. Now, this is a hex game. That's not Borodino anyway. That's South Mountain. Don't know why it brought me there. It's another very simplified format. So this one's again. That's not. That is Borodino. This is so Getty Images. That kind of looks like the one that. Oh, I think this is the one that Pub Battles had. Kind of looked like it. So this is the style I liked. You can see, you can very easily tell, where the hills are. So there's a nice hill there. Specifies the redoubt and the flèches. But if you want it, let's see, they're asking $375 for a medium view of the image. Yeah, so that's expensive. Well, this is the map I would pick. Now, if you're sneaky, you could. Wouldn't be super high detail. You could stitch this. Of course, you got this watermark there, which is on purpose, so you can't do that very thing. I wonder if you can find it. Yeah, so Alame's selling that same thing. Yeah. Let's see, the nice thing about that Getty image. Oh, I lost it. Where'd it go? It doesn't have unit markings on there. Oh, so now for album, for the same image, you can buy it for personal use digitally, $20, and that's not a terrible deal.
Hello, Ney.
Hey.
Marshal Ney. A little minor snipping issue on your screenshot, but rest assured, nothing is lost. So your guns move into position and they curse the hill, and they still have to unlimber, but they should be ready to fire. Otherwise, not much has happened. You see smoke rising in the northwest on the horizon.
Northwest
Other
or
than that,
northeast?
whoa, northeast. You're right. Northeast. That's more like it. Really more east.
Okay.
Your men are patriotic. They're ready for the battle to come, but not much has occurred other than that. What are your orders?
I will move to co-locate with Juno, and the guns are to start firing, and um, nothing else besides that. I think, by the way, your screenshots are supposed to be with the north to the top. Normally, that's how we do it.
Yeah, you are correct. I've been angling the wrong way. My bad.
That's all right.
Um, Yup. Okay. And as a final note, you don't see any movement at the readout that you can't see.
Okay.
Um, all right. Thank you. No other orders for your men?
No, I wanted to stay hidden behind the ridge until after we bombarded for a little bit.
Oh, hidden they are.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yours already without asking.
Oh, hello. Okay, I've got bad news.
Okay.
My hussars report at least one corps in Utitsa currently. At least one Russian force.
Are they marching towards us, or are they just in Utitsa?
They're just in there. They're chilling.
Okay, that's good.
All right. All right. I leave you. There is.
I'm surprised we didn't start out co-located.
What do you want, Gideon?
Huh?
I don't know. Sorry, hold on. I gotta change your volume. You're super quiet.
Yeah. I've still got those people over.
Okay, go ahead.
So what do you suppose? They're most likely gonna start coming up here once they hear the fights again, right?
Well, they might not. So they probably saw your cavalry, but they don't know if there's anything behind it. Um, what you could do is send one brigade down that road and just have them make a lot of noise, like they're about to attack Utitsa, but not do anything, and just keep them pinned down there.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
So I don't know which of you got 23rd and 24th Infantry Division. You just send one of them down the road. Tell them to demonstrate. Sit at the edge of the forest, make a lot of noise. Look like they're preparing to attack, but don't do anything.
Yeah. Hopefully that'll scare them into staying out of there.
I'll let Napoleon know. You live in a apartment with roommates?
Oh no, my brother's just got people over. He does his own tabletop gaming every Thursday night.
Oh, what game are they playing?
Just so happens that the table is right next to my setup.
Bummer. What game are they playing?
Oh, Dungeons and Dragons right now.
Oh. Do you normally play with them?
Me? No. They've got like at least 6 people already playing.
Oh, that's a
And
big group.
from campaigns I've already done with other people, 6 is pushing it for the limit.
Yeah, it really is. I like group sizes of like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But I also do it exclusively online, so it's a little bit harder than in person. They're a loud group though. It's a good group of umpires. That's good. I gotta update the umpire list. Let's see. XDX ARP did show up. Kaiser's there. Squire Miles showed up. Well, they didn't sign up, but he's there too. Blecky showed up. So I sent you a dispatch.
From the last turn, I saw that.
Yeah, so, but basically what we talked about, send a brigade to demonstrate, but keep one here as reserve, which I might end up using or need to use, depending on how the attack goes.
Marshal Ney.
So,
Your screenshot would be here in a second.
Shino, do you mind muting yourself if you're not talking? Thanks.
Your guns are firing, and they report some hits on a readout. You receive new letters from 2 batteries to your northeast of your line infantry under the hill, asking for commands.
Oh, I do command them.
They were confused on whether they belong to Devo or you, and have referred to you now.
I was confused too. Okay. Well, Shoot. I don't really want to attack it. Let's we're gonna barrage for one more turn, including the guns to the north that I now know are under my command. And
Excellent.
that's all I'm doing.
All right.
I am here for Juno. Any additional orders? Additionally, your hussars report that they were forced back by a unit of enemy hussars and a bit of artillery. So they are currently about halfway between you and
Sure.
Yutitsa.
I wanted to send one brigade. I think the 23rd will go down south and demonstrate as a, I guess, technically a feint, but I just want them to be like pretending to attack them just to keep them in place, you know? Is that understandable?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Aside from that, I have nothing else. I guess the Hussars. Uh, I don't know. I want them to keep an eye on them, but if they got forced back, that's concerning.
Well, just keep them on the road. If they get pushed all the way back, you'll have to send another brigade on that
Yeah.
road. But I think you're fine for now.
Unless challenged any further, I think I'll keep them relatively where they are. If they are challenged, they should start coming back.
All right. Understood. Any additional orders?
Besides that, no. I cannot
Excellent.
think of anything else.
Thank you. I got your dispatch.
Somehow, get some more artillery. That's mine. shot doesn't show much. I can't even see my own artillery shooting. We'll see. Somewhere in here.
Marshal Ney, are you ready?
Ready.
Your northernmost battery that has just received your orders quickly got to firing after receiving your orders.
Okay.
All of your guns have now been firing for an additional rough 30 minutes. The men report some hits, and that is all.
Are we getting fired back on by any enemy artillery?
No,
Okay. Do we see men in the fleshes at all? Or do they?
they do. They report that there are men in the fleshes, but there has been very little movement, and it's hard to really see under the readouts.
Okay. You ready for my orders?
I'm absolutely ready.
Alright, all 3 divisions are to form assault column and advance east to attack the fleshes. The cavalry, so I have 4 cavalry units under me, the Lancers, the Jaegers, and then the 2 under Grouchy, the 3rd division. All 4
Yes.
squadrons plus the horse artillery, as soon as they see the infantry nearing the fleshes, they are to ride east and attack the fleshes along the north flank. The artillery should keep firing as long as they can to give the infantry cover until.
Would you like, to clarify, your cavalry, would you like them to follow behind the infantry?
I don't want them. They should be on the north flank of the infantry, but I don't want them to move until the infantry's almost there. I'll post a screenshot in my channel
Sure.
of the movements I'm kind of thinking of. So the infantry are
Sure
going
thing.
hard east, cavalry's north, but they're gonna wait till the infantry gets close because obviously they can move a lot faster. And artillery should keep fire up until our own guys are blocking their shots, basically.
Excellent. Do you have any other orders?
And I'll move up to the hill so I can see the attack go in. Hopefully I get a better view. Or the ridge.
Where on the hill would you like to move?
I guess in the midst of my artillery, just to the northeast of, or east where I am right now.
Sure thing. All right. Thank you.
All right. Your turn. Your infantry and hussars report that the hussars report that they are being pursued by some Cossacks, but the presence of the infantry very, very quickly dissuaded those Cossacks from continuing their pursuit, and the infantry reports they'll begin looking very menacing and very angry next turn.
Perfect.
Are the infantry? So they're on the same road that the hussars were on.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
So,
got it.
I've got nothing to do besides that. So, keep up the good work.
If
Um,
Juno, if you
yeah.
wanna just for a more interesting game, if you wanna move with that brigade so you can see Utitsa for yourself and kind of direct it firsthand, I'll I mean, obviously you can call your second brigade if you need it, but if I need it for reserve, I'll call it here. You want to do that?
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Yeah, I guess I'll go down south to make it seem like, oh yeah, there's a big guy. He's got the core.
Yeah, make sure they see your
Yeah.
flags and stuff.
Yeah.
Parade around a little.
I'll leave the rest of my brigades to Ney while I go down south and help with the infantry.
All right.
Get a look at their core myself. Besides that, I have nothing.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
It's got to be free somewhere. Usually. That's album again. So a whole bunch of alamy. There's an antique map store selling this one. This one looks strange. Why does it look strange? Oh. That's north is to the left. There you go. There's the arrow. So there's the Great Redoubt. They're not even showing. Oh no, they are. There's a forward redoubt, the flèches. And is this the Great Redoubt here or there? Oh, that's it right there, I think. Actually, I'm not sure. It's actually depicted pretty differently from the other map. I remember playing this in Total War though, and it's funny how Total War, tries to represent the map, but of course they can only handle so many troops. So you got an army of like probably not even 1,000 soldiers, on a map that, in reality, how wide is this map? Is there a scale? Of course, that doesn't help. That's probably miles, worst. Miles or kilometers, so that's 2 kilometers right there. So the battle was, whatever that number is, 4 to 5. I'm looking at that Russian front. 6 worsts wide.
Talking about Total War, I keep seeing these videos pop up in my recommended of like, life-size battle of like over 100,000 troops. I can't remember which game it says.
I've seen, dang it, what's his name? Pixelated Apollo. He covers wars where they use mods and they can really up the army count. And they get some pretty big action. They have big maps and a lot larger troop count.
I knew I recognized that name. Yeah, he's pretty name.
Yeah. It's just funny because I remember doing there is a Borodino battle you can do in Total War, but it's like so small scale. It's nothing. It's not really Borodino. It's got like a defense on a hill in the south and a defense on a hill in the north, but they're like a quarter mile from each other. Anyway.
Can fix this one. I'm gonna play on a deaf and blind character.
Oops. Well, we probably won't see each other again. You'll probably spend most of the rest of your time down in Utitsa.
Yep.
Obviously, don't
guess.
attack a corps that outnumbers you. But and if you have to, like, if they do attack you and get aggressive, just slow them down, buy time, but don't get yourself killed. You should be able to, like, if they move against you, you should be able to use skirmishers in the woods to slow them down pretty good.
Marshal Ney, are you ready?
I'm ready.
The artillery smoke obscures your vision. Your own men tell you they could barely see after a few minutes of firing from their artillery positions. But from what you can tell, your men, in relatively good order, got into one large, 3-division strong assault column, while your cavalry moved into position as you wished. You do... Well, yeah, I'll leave it at that. You can see, in the distance, moving Russians. Just movement. It's very hard to tell what, but you can see movement.
Okay.
Has to read out.
I am going to move kind of in the midst of the assault columns. I'm not going to go in all the way to the fleshes, but I need to see better, so I want to move with the men. Maybe I'll inspire them too, but kind of move up with the infantry to get a better view of how the attack's going.
Yes, one of your regimental officers says there's a great spot on the hill.
Okay.
So,
I will go to see better.
and all right, is that all?
That's it.
Your assault column will continue moving, of course, under the standing orders. Do you want them to engage by fire or shock?
We're going for shock, so they're going to basically fire, volley, and then immediately bayonet charge the fleshes.
Excellent. Good luck, Ney.
Okay, thank you. So for those watching, let me show my screen. Let's see. So here's the view of the French army. Obviously can't see anything of the enemy army. Pretty concentrated. There's Davout's corps hidden in the small grouping of trees. We still got the Young Guard, Imperial Guard back in reserve, including the cavalry. So here's my latest screenshot. So despite being on the ridge with the artillery smoke's really obscuring my view, which is fair. Normally well, for me I'd show more, but every umpire has their way. So I really can't see anything but my own troops and behind me. But I think, if I recall right, Borodino, it started off foggy, and I think the French guns, I'm going off memory, I think they were too far back, and so they lost time having to get moved up into range, because they thought they were range when they deployed the night before or something. Maybe that's why they pushed us back. XDX did. To be historical. But anyway, so you can see my infantry really slow. So they were, a half an hour ago, they were here. Here's my 3 divisions. And now, one of the divisions essentially hasn't moved yet. So I think they're moving slower than they would have historically. I mean, in half an hour, you'd think they'd have gone a mile, but that's all right. So they're stepped off. Yeah, I can't even see it, but it looks like I got 1 division here in that white. My 2nd division and the 3rd's coming up in the middle. So they've moved like, what's that distance? Let's check in TTS. They were here, they moved there. I guess they moved half a mile in a half hour. But they had to form up, which, sure, that takes a little bit of time. It shouldn't take too long to form assault columns, though. Getting in the column is a fairly quick maneuver. Anyway, hopefully next turn they should be reaching the flèches. And Davu wrote me, he said he's been stricken by Russian Grand Battery on the Great Redoubt Hill, so maybe the Russians put all their guns in the north, which should be good for me, unless they put all their infantry in the south. The Russians have a lot of guns, though. Let's see. I put a bunch of my guns there, but the French have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 batteries besides what I already put on here. 5 more, 13 batteries. The Russians have. Maybe not. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 16 batteries, 17 batteries. So significantly more guns. Historically, a good chunk of the Russian guns were not even put to use. They had terrible command and control in the battle. So I think a Russian artillery commander got shot early on, and then so a bunch of reserve guns just never got. There's no second in command that took the initiative to do anything. They just said, "Oh, he's dead. I guess we're not doing anything." So they stayed in reserve and did nothing. A bunch of guns that could have been put to use. So the Russians had advantages in guns. I mean, it's been a while. I can't remember the number. I guess we can look it up. Battle of Borodino. So historically, the French had 103 to 135,000. Huge armies. The Russians had 125, 160. So the Russians outnumbered the French, and they're on the defensive. So you'd think by sheer numbers they should have won, but of course the quality of all those Russian troops wasn't as high as the French troops, and the command control was bad. Their leadership was a lot more bureaucratic, which is why they lost. Yeah, if you look at the historical battle, so the Russians are pretty deployed behind that river, all the way up to that north, and then down to Utitsa. The French army is kind of split across the two. Let's see, where was Ney in this? So Ney was in the center historically, so I'm more south than historical. But basically a grand assault, just straight into the enemy and their defenses. Now their defenses weren't as strong as you historically think of them either, because the Russians were here for like 2 or 3 weeks, and they wasted time putting those flèches and the Great Redoubt together, and it wasn't very well put together. And so they weren't actually very defensive defenses. I mean, they gave a little cover, I think, but like when you do a redoubt, you want, if we're looking at it from the side, you want like, a wall for a man to hide behind and shoot. Some kind of earthen wall, maybe with a ditch in front, so that when the enemy comes in, they get stuck in the ditch. I think the way they had done it was they had, of course there's a wall, but I think it looked more like that if I recall, which made it really easy for the enemy to just like walk up the dirt slope, or even cavalry walk up their dirt slope and then attack. So not great defenses, if I recall correctly. Not very well put together. But even so, I think historically the battle for the Great Redoubt was hard fought. I think it took multiple waves on the French side. I don't remember how hard it was to take the fleshes, but they fought hard, taking that redoubt. And if that's what Davout's supposed to be taking, and if he's having trouble due to the Grand Battery, it may be on me to take the fleshes and then sweep north. Hopefully I don't have issues with that, and then I can do something like that. And we've got Eugene in the north that hopefully will also be attacking. We'll see. We will see. I got pinged in Murat's chat.
Marshal Ney.
Hey,
Lots has occurred. Immediately upon you arriving at the hill and the position that you can actually see from, you see that the tip of your assault column immediately sends a Russian regiment running from the initial redoubt before any contact is even made. Your guns in north stop firing as the assault column and particularly the cavalry get in the way. Your cavalry has begun moving based off of your standing orders, and you are receiving fire from what you can see from other readouts that your infantry have yet to reach, and some other Russian line infantry have turned to fire on your column.
okay. So, you ready?
I'm ready. Actually, let me send your dispatch so I'm not late. Let me do that really quickly. Okay, I'm ready.
All right. So the 25th should attack that the infantry to its northeast, and then hopefully the cavalry can slam in on its flank. The 10th should just keep going east. The 11th go in behind, keep moving east. Cavalry keep moving as I directed. The artillery to the north, if they can turn, because I can see the infantry fired more to the north northeast. If they can turn and fire on those infantry, that would be good. And then I will continue moving east behind 11th.
Understood.
Thank you.
And to clarify, you want your cavalry to hit the Russians in the flank, in the northern part of that redoubt?
Yeah, because there's that one that I can see pretty clearly just to the north of the 25th. So if the
Yep.
if the infantry runs into them, then the cavalry should come in and hit their flank,
Yes.
sweep them off pretty quickly.
Sure thing.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Good luck, Nay.
So back to looking at the history. Here's the flèches. I think they called them flèche means arrow, but I think they called it because it wasn't like a full-on redoubt. Let's see. So it shows big attack going in. Looks like Poniatowski's took Utitsa too. It's interesting here that the forest, doesn't have a big arm that comes to the south like Chief put it in his map. Changes things a lot. So they took Utitsa, moved past the woods, took the flèches, took the Great Redoubt. The Russian line basically fell back, consolidated. What time is this? 1600. That's 4 p.m. Yeah, that's where it ends. And they abandoned the field. But they caused a lot of casualties. I mean, Russians had it worse, but imagine 35,000 people killed in a day. Of course, that includes wounded or missing. I'm sure 60 to 70% is wounded, but still, that's crazy high casualties. So if we update my own screen, let's see. Try and get a match. So these guys. Something like that. Actually, I think and the cavalry. Everything's moving crazy slow. They left Gushi in the back. Anyway, cavalry should be coming around. So I don't even know who I'm fighting. Let's make it generic. Oops. Generic Russian. So the Russians are, there's one guy here, someone here, I think here, and this one. These guys here, and then another group, something like that. So I want the artillery to start shooting at these guys. Cavalry should slam into these guys, hopefully. Sizes aren't matching up. So 10th should be, I didn't specify it, hopefully they're just smart. Should definitely win this fight. Concentrating a whole division against a half brigade, plus cavalry coming on the flank. And if we take them out, I'm hoping that continues onto this one. This one might be a little bit harder if 10th is doing it on their own, split up, but with the 11th coming in behind, hopefully they can finish the job. I still have these guys in reserve. Here's my backup. In case someone comes up the road or if I have to send them in, although I'm hoping I don't have to. Of course, we got the guard in reserve too, so Napoleon can commit that wherever he thinks it is necessary. Still early in the morning, it's only 8:30. Davout has trouble. Where's Davout? Davout's got huge infantry corps. But if he has trouble, I don't know. We'll see how easily I take my part. Let's go back to looking at maps.
I don't think you're supposed to be in here, James.
Where am I that I'm not supposed to be?
Uh,
I must have misclicked. I'm sorry.
you
Tell
go,
me all
man.
your secrets. Just kidding.
No, I'm the Russian. I'm the one that holds you at gunpoint.
Oh, yeah. I'm not telling you anything. Sorry about that. I'm leaving.
Oh, no, you go, man.
Accidentally. I somehow misclicked. I visited Miloradovic. Oops. I didn't see anything, though. I have all the Russian channels muted, so I'm not tempted to look at their... Technically, I still have umpire access. If I wanted to cheat, I could very easily look at all their screenshots and planning and everything. But what would the fun of that be? Then it's not Kriegspiel anymore. Alright, we're on a hunt to find this map for free. Which might be hard. So that map's not good. That's the good map. Columbia Games 1812. So Columbia sells a Borodino game. And this is the map they have. So if you want to do it on the cheap, I mean, you could even... I don't necessarily like this style. You could even make a copy of this. Problem with this one is it looks fine at this scale, but when you, like, if you had a piece and you zoom it in, you can hardly, yeah, you're not going to hardly be able to read that. This one's really interesting, though. It's interesting how different each map is. So in this one, Utitsa's here. And then they highly mark these swamps with the light blue, which basically look like don't ever attempt crossing that. So in our map, it's forested here, all the way across. That matches Chiefs, but it's showing these swamps here, which is more interesting. So there's a Borodino redoubt that they took the day before. So there's Utitsa. There's a road. There's the main road coming this way, and then like a minor road, I guess, from the north. So this map's, it's not terrible, actually. You could use it pretty decently. It's not the style that I normally prefer, but it would work. I was trying to find the one that Pub Battles was showing. Seeing if they sold it digitally. Let's see, 2023. Oh, maybe they don't sell Borodino. Pub battle uses actual period maps of the battlefields of the game map. In the case of Borodino, they're using a French map from the atlas prepared to accompany the history to consolidate. Haha. So that's the map. Now we gotta see if it's free somewhere. Project Gutenberg. Here we go. So here's the book. Let's see what happens if I click this. So I can read the whole book. Let's see if the picture's in here though. Oh no. Oh, hold on. I'm moving too far. There's a picture. I want the map. Might be the end. Of course, this is all in French.
Marshal Ney.
Hey.
Oh, I didn't say. Here's your screenshot.
They keep getting smaller.
A
I'm joking.
lot more men are moving around. So, you can see that the weight of your assault column pushes down the center. The Russians seem to be buckling. However, your cavalry, you can see to your north, running lancers and Jaegers, fleeing, routing rather.
Oh, that's no good.
However, your heavy dragoons and light cavalry have yet to see any action.
Okay.
You also can hear quite a lot of cannon fire
To the
in your
north.
north. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. No cannon fire against my assault, right? That's all north somewhere else.
You can also hear a little bit of cannon fire in the east.
So basically no changes. The assault just continues. I'm gonna move east to continue to get a better view of the fight, and raise the spirits of the men. Cavalry, keep it up. Those
You
are
would like the cavalry to continue with their orders?
yeah, the ones that aren't fleeing, keep charging in.
All right.
And the horse artillery is to set up wherever it thinks it can make itself useful and start firing.
All right. Understood.
And
Any further orders?
no, I think that's all I'm doing.
All right. Good luck, Ney.
Thank you. Oops. So I haven't heard from Juno, so I sent him a dispatch basically reminding him to let me know what's going on. I've essentially been writing Napoleon and Davout every turn to let him know how things are going. I've not heard from Davout since 7:30. So it's 2 hours, no, hour and a half later. No clue. I've not heard from Napoleon either. Not that. Yeah. Not heard much from anyone. But I mean, my part's simple. I'm basically a blunt instrument going full on attack. I think though, if Davout's have an issue against all the artillery, if I can't do it on my side, our army's going to be in trouble. Of course, we still have really significant reserves. We've got the Guard cavalry under the Old Guard under Bessier, the Young Guard under Mortier. So those guys could do a lot. I think, which battle was it that Napoleon refused to send in the Guard? Was it Borodino? Which battle did Napoleon refuse to send in the Guard? Oh, it is Borodino. Napoleon famously refused to commit his Guard in the final decisive push. Instead to hold him back and unleash a cannonade. Yeah, I guess the battle was indecisive. Was it? What? Yeah, it was Borodino. So they fought. Where's the pictures I was looking at? They fought to this point at the end of the day, and some French commanders wanted to send in the Imperial Guard to finish them off. Napoleon didn't want to. And he had a lot of criticism for that, but it's understandable because he's deep in enemy territory. And once as a commander you commit, your last reserve, you basically have no more options. And if you commit them and things go bad, they can go really bad. And he still had, this was part of a campaign, so even after Borodino, he still needed to fight a lot more battles to take Russia. And so decided not to. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, I got something from Junot. The Russians have come up to meet my hussars and infantry. Send the 24th down to assist my ruse. That's an interesting decision. So, Junot's somewhere in the woods. Probably. The enemy is now moving against him. He's got cavalry and 2 infantry brigades. He's asking for me to send the 24th. Technically, he could probably just command them directly. It was nice of him to ask. So, do I tell him to deal with it and I'm not sending it and just fall back and buy time? Because once I send him down, then I got no reserves at all. So if I run into any more trouble, I got nothing. So I think, I know he'd like to have it, but I think it's better to not send them, as much as he's not going to like that. So what's the latest? I can't hardly see anything. Let's see. So 1 of 10th is fighting here. 1 of 10th is fighting here. Got 11th here. One more coming up. 20. I don't know where the 25th went. So my Lancers and my Jaegers, I guess, broke. These guys are still around. I don't even know where they are, but probably somewhere around here. Maybe I should have specified. I'm hoping they set up something like that. And hopefully, so we got heavy dragoons. So hopefully they're enough to break. It's 10:30. Still feels early in the battle, but you never know when they'll call things. Normally when I do it, I try to be done 11:30. So we got time for the post game, and from the game start to the end, including like the post game discussion, which usually lasts 15 to 20 minutes. It's a 3-hour game. So actually my games are usually sometimes even just 2 hours, but 2.5. But I usually have a really high umpire count to umpire to player ratio, especially lately. But it's been like 2-to-1 players to umpire. And when you only have 2 players, you can be pretty quick because it's a lot less screenshots and updates and orders to do. So you can kind of fly through the turns. Even in a 2.5 hour time frame, you can get 10 to 15 turns done. Which when you start a battle in contact, basically where you can start fighting from the first 1 or 2 turns, then you can get to a decent resolution in 10 to 15 turns. Now, if you started way from the back, you might not, depending on the scenario. So, like, if we were all marching in on these roads and had to do a whole lot of marching to contact, I mean, you could spend 5 or 6 rounds just marching before you even deploy. So, and those games are fun and have their own. Honestly, they're probably more fun because the maneuver is a very fun part of Kriegspiel. Now, we still got to decide our formation, and, we had an area, so I think we could have deployed. I didn't get the full north all the way. I think we could have deployed something like that. So we had full flexibility of how we deployed within this area. And that's normally how I do it, because I only have 2.5 hours. So the Russians probably had, if they're in their teats already, they probably had like this whole area to deploy in. But basically, we're starting off, a kilometer from each other, staring at each other, so the combat happens very quickly. Actually, I think I can delete all the drawn lines. So I got a dispatch from Devu that Eugene is in a bad fight.
Sorry for the lateness. My cat needed me.
No worries.
All right. It is 9:30, Marshal Ney. And let me get you your screenshot.
You're getting all my dispatches, right?
Yep, I'm getting them. I think maybe literally one got lost so far. But which one, I cannot tell you. All right. So, your men have been successful in pushing the Russians out of the redoubts. Additionally, your cavalry have successfully shattered infantry facing one of your divisions. However, some of your men flee the field after receiving too much fire. Your horse artillery have found a target. To the south, your guns, including the ones still remaining on the hill, can see what seems to be a burgeoning Russian force poking out of the forest to your south, and they have opened fire on it. Likewise, that Russian force, which seems to be small from your view, opens fire on your assault column in the south. Russian cavalry cuirassiers have countercharged in the center against your 11th, and your 11th infantry in reserve have countercharged their countercharge. And that is what has happened so far. You can still hear the sound of guns, and you can see the effect of round shot on some of your 11th infantry.
Why do I have a 1 on me? Was I shot at or something?
Oh yeah, oh, I told it too much. Yeah, a bullet grazes your shoulder during the fight.
Alright, you ready for orders?
Absolutely.
So, we'll start.
Actually, let me finish your dispatches. Sorry,
Oh, no worries.
I sent one. Let me send the other. All right, what are your orders?
So, Junot's 24th Infantry that are back in reserve behind the artillery. They are to come east at speed and assist against the Russians that are coming out of the woods.
All right.
The I
Oh,
guess,
hold on. One. Actually, no. Sorry. Keep going. My bad.
I think if the 11th is under attack from cavalry, they should form square if they can. And
All of the 11th?
well, it looks like all the 11th is under attack. I can hardly see anything. I guess the westmost one,
Okay.
and then the 10th is to form up facing south to trade fire with those guys that just showed up. And cavalry continue their assault. Heavy cavalry and the light cavalry should, attack what they can see. It looks like they're going to run into the cuirassiers. And I'll stay where I am.
Understood. Any other orders?
Nope.
Or will that be all?
That's it.
All right. Good luck, Marshal Ney.
here, broke a unit here, broke a unit here. They've got cavalry countercharging. They should be forming square. '25th is running. I've summoned the 24th, so hopefully they can come help. Oh my gosh. So,
Marshal Ney.
yes.
So, the 10th Infantry Division faces a countercharge from what seems to be vigorous and fresh Russian reinforcements,
Mm-hmm.
and they break. And the most eastern 11th Infantry seem to charge, and you don't see what comes up of it. However, the 11th Infantry Division that went into square and your light cavalry successfully broke the enemy cuirassiers. To your north, you can see what seems to be barely dregs of your heavy cavalry dragoons limping away from the fight. However, good news, reinforcements from Junot, the Italian Royal Guard, have arrived, and to your west, you can see Mortier crest the hill of the Young Guard.
Yay.
You can hear a little bit of cannon fire to your east, and the smoke seems to be getting thicker.
Where
What are your
did-
orders?
So I have 2 blocks of the 11th, but I can only see one. Where did the other one go?
They they charged, and you can't really see what became of it.
Okay, they're somewhere.
They went beyond the cavalry that were the enemy cavalry that were breaking, and some other Russian infantry came up from where the 11th once were,
Okay.
or what seems to be like that. Not You don't really know how they came about there, but
Alright, so the 24th has come up. So the 10th are breaking, but they're to fall back to the west. The 24th are to form up and trade fire with the Russians, and then the Young Guard. I want them to send their first division. There's first and second. So send first north. They are um, to north with orders to take Simonovskaya.
Semen. Okay, right,
So basically,
understood.
keep going up the road, past their
And that's
light.
just for the
Just for
first.
Just for first. Second is to join the 24th and assist against the Russians here in the south. The horse artillery that's not doing anything now, they are to move north and start shooting in that direction towards the northeast.
Understood.
And I think that's it.
Any further orders?
I will move. No, I'll stay here.
Just to remind you, you also still have the light cavalry that
Oh,
are that broken enemy.
um,
That enemy is fleeing.
then the light cavalry should move south and hit the flank of that infantry division, the Russians that I can see that are hurting the 10th at the moment.
Understood. And I have all of your orders except, did you give an order to the 11th infantry that were in square?
Oh, yeah, they can come out of square and also assist on the against the Russians on the north flank of the 24th.
By fire or shot?
Fire this time.
Understood. They have officially taken and populated the redoubt.
Nice.
Good work, Ney. All right. Will that be all?
That is it.
Understood. Good luck, Ney.
Thank you. So, still can't see much, but I got someone here. Someone here. Maybe 3. Maybe more. Don't know what half my 11th Infantry Division is doing. Probably chasing down the Russians, I guess. So I've lost 2 whole divisions. In my corps I had 3, I lost 2. So they're going to be going. Then the 11th is pretty well spent, rough shape. So I got the 24th now, which I'm glad I didn't send him to Juneau because I need him. See if we can figure out what corps we're fighting. Open browser. So that says 23rd.
Oh man.
What?
Is it already over?
I was just getting started.
Wow, already.
Nay.
Ooh.
Where did you take my core?
I needed it.
Oh my gosh.
I needed 1 division, and you stole it.
So, before I reveal anything, say anything, I'm going to ask both CICs.
Excuse me.
Napoleon, how do you think you're doing?
Well, I think we have 2 major attacks coming in on the Russian center, and I anticipate that the Russians have exhausted most, if not all, of their reserves at this point. So I'm hoping that it will be successful.
All right, and what about you? I can never pronounce Russian. Kutuzov.
Kutuzov.
Well, I only did the setup as Kutuzov because of the weird player arrangement. I played out the rest just as Datali, who was only commanding this cavalry corps off to the side. So from the very limited perspective that I do still have, though, the fact that there are Russians who have crossed the river in the middle doesn't seem bad. But that's all I can tell about how the rest of the battle is going. I mean, my end in particular is neither here nor there. It's just kind of back and forth. I hope that it did some good.
Yeah, probably
Alright.
asking Bagration is probably the best person to ask because he's been in the middle.
Yeah, that seems right.
Spigration, how do you think you're doing?
I think in the south we're doing a little bit tougher than I would have liked to, but I think the reserves have arrived from Dudarov, and in the north I was mostly occupied in the south. In the north, I was hoping this turn to get an idea of how my cavalry engagement went, and I think I still have a couple units that'd be fresh around the redout. So I'm somewhat hopeful that I can hold out in the center for at least a little bit longer.
All right. Let me share my screen here. Can everybody see?
Yep.
So we have a very nasty kind of a French attack forming in the north here, where the Russians in the north have basically all but left the field. I think regardless of how the south goes, one of the other players brought up a good point that the Russians would have to retire to defend Moscow with the north open like this. So as far as actually preventing a march on Moscow, the French have absolutely opened the way for a further offensive. But down in the south, things are a bit dicier, but I think the real deciding factor is that the young guard are coming in an assault column, completely fresh, ready to be thrown into the Fletchers here that are basically completely under French control at this point. And Dudarov did not start moving until like the very last couple turns, so the young guard are going to be here first against the very tired Russian forces. The Russians kind of lost a big factor of the defense here when pretty early on the French had like 4 batteries, I think, focusing on just taking out these 2 batteries for a few turns. And that really prevented them from being able to deal damage to the French as they came in. The Russians were at a very real disadvantage here, not materially, but there was some player confusion. One of the players, something came up, he wasn't able to make it, unfortunately. And the replacement player who, asked, directly to come in, he never showed up. He didn't say anything about not showing up or coming in late. And that really screwed over the Russian team. They were very stretched thin. Like, for example, here in the middle, France had like 3 or 4 players here, I think, at one point. And the entire game, it was just 1 or 2 Russians trying to defend, 2 miles of front here against, much larger French force. So it was definitely, very, it was against the Russians, I would say, the odds in the middle here. I think they played it as best as they could with the circumstances. I'm a bit annoyed how the roster turned out with that, because I don't know. I think it's always, sucky when a CIC gets screwed over because a player, just kind of doesn't show up. But
let me toss in one fun fact from the Wikipedia entry on this. Apparently, at the actual battle, Kutuzov didn't really give many orders and was basically useless. So the fact that we didn't have him/me, accidental historical simulation.
I mean, that's a fun way of looking at it, I guess. Yeah. I'm gonna let each of the umpires now, give their own thoughts on the battle, starting with Arp.
Hello. So to the well fought by both sides really, Bohanis and Kutsov, who had to obviously come up to north unexpectedly. Initially, there was a kind of a bit of an artillery duel around here from both sides, which was largely ineffective, but it did force the French to retire a little bit from Borodino. And then there was basically just a mass cavalry battle that occurred. Kutsov kind of came down here probing, as you'd expect, and cavalry from Bohanis kind of from Eugene came up this way. And there was a charge by the Russians, or moves by the Russians south, and there was kind of charging and counter-charging as the kind of the morning went on. The Russians came up to about this area, and then they were forced back, fell back to here. And then at this point, Murat turned up with his mass cavalry, the guard, and his own corps, and then put in another charge, which then led to another kind of a battle along here, which initially the dice favoured the Russians, but eventually weight of numbers and the dice changed, and the Russians were forced back. Kutuzov basically did the best that he could do with the hand that he was dealt. Really, he was really outnumbered 2-1 with cavalry, and I think he did a very good job. I think, but also Murat did a good job with his attacks. Eugene did very well marshalling his forces, bringing up his infantry and forming squares when he needed to. And really, they had at the end of this, they've got overwhelming numbers. They've got a whole French, old Pontante's corps completely fresh. Most of Grouchy's division is pretty fresh as well. And even though there was a very spirited last kind of attack by the Russians across the river, which initially went very well, I think they've got no reserves, and the French can basically push through this way quite easily now. And with Murat's cavalry also pretty fresh, I think it's just toast for the Russians in the north. But well done to all the players.
All right, thank you, Arp. Kaiser.
All right. I was mainly handling the south here. Not really a whole lot went on. I'm going to be honest. For on my front, I had Dudarov and Janot, and really, Janot spent most of the game with a single infantry division, just standing there menacingly, while Dudarov just sent infantry after infantry to go and blow it up, but like sending them one at a time. Eventually, he was forced to withdraw and is now, I believe, with Ney. Yeah, he's over here with Ney. While the rest of his corps is currently fighting amongst the Fléchés. So, not a whole lot here. Dudarov initially sort of undercommitted to sending reinforcements, I think, from what he had up here to go and assist here. But now he's really sending all he's got to go and hopefully maybe stem some of the French tide. I still think he'll arrive too late to really save it, but he can at least secure their withdrawal pretty comfortably, I would say, with what he's got left. And then obviously this attack over here, I don't think it's going to really lead to much, unfortunately. All these units are recovering, and they'll probably be able to just move over and blunt anything really from happening down here for the most part, I would suspect. Otherwise, well fought by everyone. Again, I feel really bad for Bagration. I just saw his little piece running up and down, up and down, up and down the entire time across this entire line, trying to keep it from collapsing. But yeah, very well done.
Hey, thank you. Miles?
I had Marat and Napoleon, and I thought they did a great job. I think Napoleon made some really wise decisions, a pretty ballsy move to send all of his cavalry, the Guard and Marat, north to flank the Russians pretty early in the battle. And I think the French players did a good job communicating to one another. And so they did a great job. The Russians put on a great defense in the center. I thought the French were going to take it a number of times, only to see them get pushed back. But they just had an advantage in numbers because of the troops in the south. Didn't get engaged. So I think Napoleon played a very good battle. Well done.
Thank you, Squire.
I mostly helped out with combat, but I also handled Milodorovich, sort of in the north center. He mostly hung out around this little knoll for most of the game, which was great viewing early on, and then everything got all smoky. But as to the combat, I do want to commend the part of Bagration's corps that initially held the Flèches. They held out against a truly terrifying assault column far longer than I thought they had any right to initially. And it's a massive credit to them and the Dice Gods that they're still holding as well as they are. I think the Russians were a little bit, if I was going to say anything, a day late and a dollar short with movement in the south, and a little bit too hasty in the north. But other than that, I think everyone fought well on a tactical level and made the best omelets they could with some very strangely breaking eggs.
All right, thank you. Tubaleki, this was his first time umpiring, so He did a pretty good job, I think. I hope to,
Indeed.
play more often with him on the server. Do you have anything to say, Dubaleki?
Yes, I had the very eventful Marshal Ney, and he had a very bold plan to essentially reduce the readouts for about 2 turns by fire and charge in a 3 division strong assault column straight down the middle. And it did work out pretty well in the beginning. They routed, I believe, half of a division just by fire, which gave a free readout. But surprisingly, the Russians did bounce back with some reinforcements. The Russian reserve cavalry from Bagration actually did a very excellent job at countercharging. There was, I think, a little bit of missed opportunities with how the cavalry was used by Ney. But otherwise, very sound plan, and of course, I believe the position for them is essentially one. They have the young guard coming in who are completely fresh, and they have recovering broken men in the rear. Even though the Russians have slightly less recovering broken men, I don't think the position is winnable for them long term, short term. But they did hold on surprisingly well. Let's give it to them. The south is very sad. The very far south. I believe it would have been a much more decisive Russian effort if the south had moved earlier.
Just to add to this, actually, because it came up, I think the French did an excellent job of communicating amongst the team
Yes.
with the dispatches, which were very good. And I think the Russians didn't so much, but probably it's not surprising considering there were only 4 players and they probably had their minds on other things and running around and deciding what to do. So didn't help. As another thing that didn't help them being kind of cut down, but there was definitely a difference between the two sides. Just made a big difference.
They were just role playing.
I'm going to ask
Yeah,
the
probably.
players now about their experiences. So, Progression, what do you think of the game?
Oh, jeez. So, I will admit, I initially at first didn't realize my line extended that far. I thought Dudarev was linked up with me at the Flaches, so bad move on my part. I think I sent him a relatively spicy dispatch at one point saying that I heard about the battle at the Flaches through the rank and file. But also, too, with that, Kutuzov initially was around that area, and if we had had another player down there to oversee everything, because like you guys said, my piece was just moving north and south, and every time, I'd lose sight of the fleshes, and then I'd gain sight of the redoubt, and vice versa. So, and of course, the one time I did that was when the attack finally came at the redoubt. So then I have to react to that, head down south at the same time to try and recover what's going on in the south, and I'm just waiting for Dudarev's relief column to march up from the south and just try and hold out what I have. I was pretty confident with my situation up north until I realized that Malkovich had crossed the river. I don't know why. So yeah, I think I was sending dispatches a lot there at one point, and I think I asked the umpire a couple times, are they going out? Because I was getting nothing back from anyone. So it was definitely an interesting experience having to actually move my commander piece a lot and deal with what I feel like it was 2 battles going on at the same time. And my initial strategy with the artillery was I know that counter battery fire isn't exactly effective, so I didn't want them wasting artillery on the French artillery, and I wanted to get the infantry in the open, but that didn't happen until too late in the game. So, but I've got 3, probably like half a division that are still fresh around the redoubt that could either move south or repulse any attack there. So I'm still feeling pretty confident in my position.
Yep. Devel?
And I lost my mouse there. Sorry about that. I appreciate your patience.
So I was in the, I guess you would call it the center, overlooking the Grand Redoubt, which proved to be pretty grand tonight. My forces were been mostly a deadlock for most of the game, with strong forces there and waiting for Ney to come up on my south flank, and then with Eugene being taken, I think, by surprise by that northern Russian attack, really took away the opportunity for Eugene to kind of give me more support to do my mission, which was to seize the Grand Redoubt. So without the support, I was pretty limited in what I was able to accomplish. But I feel like the reserves are in the right places and pressure is being applied at the right moments. That my planned attack, my next move was to pretty much send in everything that I had on hand. I think it would have been successful.
All right, Deuterov.
Okay, I will start off by saying technically I was in command of the Fletches. Not really though, because I didn't receive not one report from them, and I assumed that was given over to who was coming in for us as fill-ins. So I didn't pay them much mind, and I did not know how bad things were up in the north. I got several reports of, oh, it's not that bad, and then all of a sudden, oh, the Fletches are lost, and I was like, huh? So I just sent a little something, and then he was like, oh no, it's real bad, send the reserve. I was like, okay, wow. So, but by that point it's the end of the game, and I'm realizing, I'm like, okay, I need to go get eyes on myself. But I just sat in my position because that's what I was ordered to do. And I got the fresh reserves, but it's gonna be a little too late. So that's all I got.
Napoleon, do you have anything else to say now that you've seen the full map? Napoleon, do you have anything for to say now that you've seen the full map?
Yeah, we had a pretty distinct plan going in to this, which was to have Ney open up an attack on the flesh, to draw enemy reserves, and then to make a large attack on the Great Redoubt with Eugene and Davout, which we also hope to draw away more enemy reserves. And then we would throw in the Guard and Poniatowski, who had been left in reserve up north, which would overwhelm whatever the Russians had left. So we had a very distinct strategy, and when the enemy attacked us in the north, it kind of unpinned it a little bit, but we modified it slightly where we understood that Eugene was tied down, but he had Poniatowski up there, so we weren't very worried about him being overwhelmed. And we also just sent all of our cavalry north because we knew the enemy Guard cavalry was up there, so I felt pretty comfortable about trying to crush that. And I was very surprised, now that I can see the map, how large of a corps they had in the south, in Utitsa. I felt that the enemy center was weak, but I truly didn't realize how weak it was. And possibly I should have launched Davout into an attack sooner. But I think this would be a pretty devastating loss for the Russians, with a lot of our cavalry fresh and in an enveloping position, and the Russian center about to break. I think this would be pretty decisive loss.
Right, Janot?
I'm gonna take Dudarov's inaction in the south as sign that my excellent demonstrations made him think that I had a full corps behind me, and so delayed him from moving. Besides that, I didn't really do anything besides give the rest of my corps to Ney.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Oh well.
Kutuzov, do you have anything else to say now that you've seen the full map?
Nope.
All right. Murat?
Yeah, I was promised a very chill game where I would sit in reserve the entire time and then give one order at the end to charge. And that sadly didn't happen. So as was said, we had a giant running cavalry battle in the north, which ultimately went very well for us, I think, now that we've routed the cavalry. And my goal pretty early on in the game was simply to capture Kutuzov. That was my driving mission in life. So I think we're close. I think one more turn and I would have done it.
All right. Bilorodovich? Yeah, Bilorodovich.
Thanks. So yeah, I had I hesitate to call it a core. I had the small force in the center of the Russian line, which ironically put me in a position where I was having to really support both the north and the south, which stretched my force very, very thin, which I think Squire can attest to. Tried to make the most out of it. I think on the river, I definitely punched above my weight, but trying to support the south, now that I see it, there's just too many French, and I only had really one division to support any attack on the Great Redoubt. And then my cavalry also went north to attempt to reinforce Tatali/Kutuzov, but it looks like they're sort of pinned against the river now as well. So all in all, I think it was I don't know if I would have done anything differently, but I think it's just being pinched between two huge French forces would have been too much.
Mm-hmm. Ney?
Yeah, so I had the southern wing of the army, and pretty straightforward orders. I had just attacked the fleshes and take them. I think the most important decision that I made was to send Juno south. He's supposed to have 2 units, not just the one, but with the one, I guess, half division to demonstrate again Utitsa, I think was key in keeping a good portion of the Russian army basically inactive for the battle, which if he had been up north at the fleshes, before, we would have been in trouble. So probably the most important decision. Besides that, is basically a straightforward bombardment and then all-out attack. I committed my whole corps because I knew we had the guard in reserve, and I kept. I know Junot didn't like it, but I kept half his corps in my reserve as well, which I committed at the end because as the reinforcements started arriving from the south, I really needed that help. But it was very interesting. I couldn't hardly see anything. I think Tubaleki was maybe realistic, but I hardly could see anything out there. So I was making a lot of guesses as to enemy force strength and composition and reserves. But it was a lot of fun, and thanks to the French team. And the umpires, of course.
All right, we got one last player, hidden beneath the umpires. Viceroy Eugene de Beauharnais.
Yeah, so I was Viceroy Eugene de Beauharnais. I commanded my corps plus Poniatowski's corps, which, by the way, Napoleon, those are my 2 favorite Napoleonic characters, so thank you for letting me command both of them. So my initial plan, part of the plan, was I was supposed to demonstrate at Borodino, hide Poniatowski's corps, and then attack across to support Davout against the Great Redoubt. That immediately was spoiled by what 9, 10 Russian cavalry units coming from my north. I made a stand at was it Sharino, north of Borodino. The 13th Division formed square and held for almost 2 hours while I got the Italian Royal Guard and some other troops into position. And once Kutuzov came over that hill, the squares started to hold and they never broke. We counterattacked, and right when things were starting to go either way, it could have went either way. I had about 3 or 4 units of cavalry that were countercharging that were doing at varying levels of good. The squares were holding. Marat joined me, and when Marat joins me, we're about to have a cavalry charge. So he went through my lines, charged north northeast, gave me some breathing room. And throughout the whole battle, I was really hemming and hawing about whether or not I should commit Poniatowski to this. And in the end, I decided to keep his core fresh. And I was glad that I did, because now that my core can refocus on holding Borodino, as the game ends, I have Poniatowski's core, which is still fresh, about to punch across the river and hopefully push towards the redoubt or Gorky. So I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the surprise of being the supporting role to being one of the main pressed bodies. And the 13th, hats off to you. Italian Royal Guard, hats off to you. It was a lot of fun. Umpire Arp was amazing. I really enjoyed him. Thank you.
Thank you all to the players and the umpires. I had a very excellent team of umpires this time. In fact, there were times where I had to, question what I was even there for. They got combat done so fast when I was still, just resolving things. So yeah, I hope you guys had fun. Feel free to hang out as long as you want. And yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Man.
And good night, everyone. Thanks for playing all the game.
I got something to clear up with you guys. Ney and I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Juno.
That demonstration was not what kept me there. That's exactly why I contended with him and just cycled out men. What kept me there and I didn't move at all is because my orders were like to maintain my area, but I had the reserve guard. So, and I was only talking to Burgundian, or however you pronounce it. I'm tired.
Bagration.
There you go. He was the only one communicating with me, and it was not CIC. So I was like, I'm not about to sit here and send a whole corps that I may need to, another command, and I don't know what's going on. So I sent him a little bit of, spare corps until he was like, no, I need a reserve corps. And I was like, okay, it got to be really bad. So that's when I sent them. But again, I didn't know what was going on. I had a whole corps that was lost apparently, and I never received anything from them. So I didn't know if somebody took control of them or not. It was interesting, that's for sure.
I have to say,
that demonstration didn't keep me there though. That's for sure. That's not why I stayed in position.
Yes, with how much damage the Russians were doing to Ney's attack, because Ney was kind of a madman, just ramming his army into the flechettes. Had the eight entire brigades of infantry and the 2 batteries of artillery just kind of sitting around in Ulitsa started moving, or had started over with the fletches, I think we could have had a Russian victory just from how ground up Ney would have been.
I don't know. I think the Ney attack was never supposed to be the main attack. Like if they had reinforced it, I mean, the intention was always for Ney to draw, to spend his core against the flesh and draw in as many Russian reinforcements as possible to that position, and then to fall back onto Juno or to hold the position. And the main attack was still in the center on the Great Redoubt, where truly, even if that extra corps moves up there, I just don't think there's anything they could have done to stop Davout, the Old Guard, and which I think Eugene mentioned it, that he would have sent Poniatowski across the river as we had initially planned as well, once he had broken it.
I do want to say that the attacks on the redoubt actually were not that successful. I mean, he was doing good damage up in, but the attacks in the north were all piecemeal and very tentative. There was never really a front-wide successful attack until the very end, when the Russian cavalry came to repulse them.
He still had 5 divisions that were still moving up, though. That's kind of what I'm saying, is that.
Oh yeah, I mean, they might win now in the end, but I mean, if the Russians had finished grinding up Ney and they had more forces to bring up north afterwards, right? I don't think it's impossible to say that the Russians could have held the redoubt and the fletches.
The the thing with the redoubt is that Bagration still had grenadiers in reserve there, and then also I had a division on the north flank. So if
Yeah, the Russians
Davout
are
would-
very fresh in the north around the redoubt.
yeah, like the division I sent was fully fresh. Like,
Yeah,
and
but
then I had artillery on the flank, so I don't know
the-
if Davout would have made really any headway there.
I mean,
Like-
I looked at the map. The Russians had, I think, 3 divisions worth of infantry left around there, and Davout alone had 5 to send, plus the old guard, plus the 2 from Poniatowski. I just don't think they would have.
Yes, but what I'm getting at is, yeah, he can send all those straight at the Great Redoubt, but then I hit him in the flank, and all those numbers mean nothing. So he has
I
to
don't-
spread them out.
I
And then
don't
when he does that,
think that you would be able to hit them in the flank.
Yeah,
even with.
Did you see where I was?
There isn't the frontage. You could have hit the lead division in the flank and mauled it, but there was probably about 3 divisions worth of frontage, and then at that point, basically everything from the river south is a solid wall of dudes.
Yeah.
Let me show off here specifically more again. I mean, because again, like the other thing is that it is so cramped up here that yeah, if you wanted to use all of this infantry that you have up, you would have to kind of stop using the artillery here. And as this opens up, and if the Russians were forced to retreat, you now have 1, 2, 3, 4 Russian batteries that would be able to open up on the attacking French infantry. Like, I mean, just right here, like, if the battle had gone differently, of course, you know, you can always get different outcomes. But just looking at this right now, you know, if this were in a better situation right here, I think that this would also be in a much better situation. Over here, you get a much more like room to maneuver with the French, right? Yeah, the French attack
look
here
how-
might be a deciding factor, but I do not think that that's.
Look how thin their line is there. They have 4. They have.
Right here?
They have 3 divisions there that I can see, and they have a smattering of cavalry, and two batteries that would be able to participate. The other batteries would be blocked by their own forces.
Yeah, what I'd said is that yeah, if the cavalry then retreated, right, they were forced back by this French infantry attack, right?
Yeah.
So let's say this is a perfect scenario, right? Like okay, like this, right? You guys are able to get in like this. These guys all fall back, right? Then you still have now your artillery can't support your infantry because this is going up the slope, right? And their artillery can open up on you, right? So now they have, a complete artillery advantage, and they have this infantry coming back into support. They have 1, 2, 3, 4 brigades, 2 more here. Again, like this might be a decisive attack. I'm not saying anything about the north.
Gotta disagree with you here because I think the artillery would do a lot of damage going in, but ultimately it would just be overwhelmed. And a lot of that infantry is already very beaten up. And there is like, look at how much fresh infantry Davout had, plus the old guard, and preferably they would be moving up artillery behind it to secure the position. And I'm not just saying, what I'm saying is it's not just Davout on his own that wins it, it's Davout plus Poniatowski, like you're saying. Like the 2 forces converging as was planned from the very beginning would have been just simply far too extremely overwhelming.
What I'm talking about is if this had been anchored down by forces that were moved up from the south immediately, right? So this is completely fine, right? Ney is repulsed, they regain the flechettes, and now the forces that right now were trickling in and kind of giving Ney a bit of a run for money here, where you see a bunch of his units kind of broken the past couple turns. These units now are instead up here to reinforce here, right?
That would
so you
take
have
them
more
2
artillery
hours.
coming in. Well, I'm saying that they were here from the start. They were here from the start, right? If
You're
they
doing
were
a
here from the start.
hypothetical.
Yeah, this is a
Oh,
hypothetical.
okay.
A hypothetical where instead of having the reserves down here, the reserves
The
were
reserves
up here,
are up there.
right?
Yeah.
So
Well-
Ney is repulsed, and now they're able to move up here in a similar fashion to reinforce this attack.
If we're in a situation where their reserves are here and Ney's attack fails, I don't commit the young guard to Ney's attack. I commit it to the center.
But there's just not the frontage. You can commit all the infantry you want, but in the day, it's just more meat into a grinder, right? Like if the frontage doesn't allow it, it's useless back here.
That's how they took the position historically. Like it's not what you're talking about is how you win a position in a Napoleonic is you commit reserves until the enemy breaks. Like,
Right, but we also have to look at. I don't know, James. For future games, I think there has to be a little bit something to penalize one of the players for future strategic campaigning for their army, because that was part of the reason that Borodino was so decisive. Is it historically kind of ended in a draw, but it inflicted enough casualties on Napoleon to keep him in Moscow long enough for the winter to set in. It didn't destroy the Russian army, and I don't think this situation, even right now, sure, the Russian army is going to not going to be able to burn Moscow. They're probably going to have to retreat to the south, but they're not going to be encircled and completely defeated. And Napoleon just took, even in right where it is right now, he has a bloody nose at the very least.
I would like to.
I mean, it's a bloody battle, but the Russian army is shattered here. Like,
Yeah, I'm talking about a hypothetical though, where again, like the South goes much better because they have reserves here. I don't think it is. I don't think it's like so far outside the realm of possibility for them to win in the North too with the reserves then.
Yeah, I actually kind of agree with XDX, but I do think it's I think it's mildly moot because the North is going so badly for the Russians that what time is it? Is it like 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that. He literally is about to cross the river north and wrap around the redoubt well before any time of any concern about daylight going away. So I think that if there was such a heavy reserve in the Russian center that it dissuaded us from attacking the Flesh or the redoubt, how things went in the north probably means that the Russian army is partially encircled and forced to retreat south either way.
Well,
and I mean,
keep in
that
mind,
was
I certainly agree with you that it would be better for the Russians to have their reserve in the center, but I do think that it doesn't. I think that the what you're arguing, I mean, you're the umpire, but based on my understanding, the whole plan was largely working. And I think that the Russians would struggle pretty heavily. I think it would have been much better for the Russians to have kept their guard and the cavalry in the center, which is where I expected it to be. If they had, but it's a bit of a different battle if they do that. Maybe their reserves change things, but I don't think. I think I still win. That's just my opinion.
Who had command of the Fletches? X? Who technically had command of them?
I think Bagration did. I mean, there was something weird. The deployment for the Russians was really weird. There wasn't like a actual deployment. He just kind of described where all the pieces were put out in a big long post, and so I had to kind of go hunting across to like find where things went.
Okay, because technically they were under my command, but I never received a report from them. But if I did receive a report from them, I would have sent reserves, not the reserve formation with the guards early on, but I would have at least sent third.
I mean, they were more than a mile away from you. Like I thought they were under command of the Bagration too, right? We all thought it was just Bagration's troops there.
Yeah, so if I received word from them, I would have sent third corps at least, and I could have just held the town with second corps until I was like, okay, I don't need to be here.
So the Russian CIC was in a very rough spot, and I mean, that there was very little communication from the team like before the battle. He didn't really get a chance to go over planning with everybody, and then again, like he just kind of lost one of his most important players before the battle with no replacement.
Yeah, and again, it was literally just us two talking to each other. So I was like, okay, I'm talking to another guy who has his entire own command, so I'm not going to give him my important assets, and I'm doing what I was told to do. So, but again, if the Fletches were in my command and I received a report from them, I would have literally moved my position, and then I would have been like, oh, Ney is coming here in full force. Okay, let me shift some corps around. And the reserves would have been moved up a whole lot sooner. I would have had third corps in position. It would have literally just been second corps down there. And then I eventually would have moved them too. I'm just telling you, like, my train of thought of what I would have did. But
Right,
you know,
right.
Yeah,
And
I,
even then, like I said, where Kutuzov initially was, if we had had even just a player there, because historically Kutuzov didn't really do anything during the battle. He let his commanders decide the tactical decisions. So we didn't really need a Kutuzov for the battle. But because we didn't have a player in that spot, and I had to do the running back and forth, I spent a couple turns on each side blind of what was happening on either my north or south.
And it
So
always seemed
that
like the turn that you left to go check out the other side, something horrible happened where you left, right? So it was always
Yeah,
like,
that was right when the full force of Ney came in on the
Mhm.
flechettes. I went down there and it was just some artillery, and I thought, all right, well, let me go check on the redoubt real quick. And of course, when I got up there, you told me that, oh, half of your units are breaking.
yeah, like the very turn you went up, like yeah, like 3 or 4 units broke that turn alone. It was it was very unfortunate.
And I think I
yeah,
had spent like 2 turns down there as well. Like if I had just spent one
Mhm.
more turn, but I was getting hesitant. I'm like, oh, I should go north and check and see what's going on up there.
Yeah, and that's why the part again why I'm so annoyed. Like this player specifically, he was an umpire, and I was like, oh man, I don't know. Like if Russia wins and you like switch to playing Russia, like I don't know. I don't want like France to complain that it was like an umpire, any unfairness. But he convinced me. I let him play for Russia, and then he doesn't show up, right?
We'll just say that some general on the first artillery barrage of Ney got his leg
I did.
chopped off and was out of the battle.
I did
He
add.
nah,
should
you
have
know
up and
who we
died.
blame it on, right? We blame it on Fourth Corps because they were under my command, but I didn't get anything from them. And then Begrudging had to, or again, however you pronounce it, he had to take
Bagration.
command of them because they were near him. So we just throw it all on Fourth Corps. It's their fault.
Yeah,
I
I do
wanted
think.
to ask.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask the. I know ARP is gone, but I'm not blaming him for any of this. Just FYI, like I just like objectively, just analytically, it seems to me in retrospect that the weighting of the French cavalry to the north under Kutuzov was a pretty big mistake. Does everyone agree with me there?
Oh,
Like
the
how much cavalry
northern.
each side had.
Yeah, well, like the northern swing at
Yeah,
all,
it's
like
a
was
huge
kind
mistake.
because like Marat made that like devastating, but I was holding easy before Marat showed up, and like I assumed I don't have the map in front of me, so I forget the name of it, but I assumed that the only reason that they would be doing a mass cavalry charge with like 10 units was to screen infantry coming up to support them or other units wrapping even further around to try to get behind us. That didn't end up materializing, and I don't see what he thought he was going to do, like what the plan was. I guess I just don't understand what the plan was because I just put my guys in square, and even if even if Marat had not held or shown up, I was holding easy. Like the Royal Guards were still at 1 when they were repulsed. Like
This is
one.
what the game was like at the very start. This is how both deployments were. His plan was like up here to be able to scout and try to swing in toward like this and hit the flank of the French. He was expecting kind of a more of a historical battle where the majority of the French forces were down here, very light in Borodino, and obviously he bit off much more than he could chew up here, especially with the squares and.
Now that
Yeah,
His
because
artillery
I
was completely cut off from firing too. He got like in front of his artillery here charging, so it wasn't able
right.
to do anything the entire battle.
now
Yeah,
that would
because
be an
I
interesting scenario to run. Is what if the Russians had put their reserve along with the cavalry up there?
That's what I thought was happening. Like I didn't really think that there would be any reason for like a 9 in the morning
Mhm.
mass cavalry charge against concentrations of infantry unless the Imperial Guard were right behind them. And I thought, and I didn't say this to Napoleon because I didn't want to influence him, but I told him like I see Kutuzov.
Yeah,
I feel like the main effort, but I don't see infantry yet.
Yeah,
You want to
one thing.
know what the messed up thing about all this is? Again, I'm throwing all the blame on Fourth Corps, right? I thought this was given over to one of the people who came in as a replacement, and I no longer had command of Fourth Corps.
Mhm.
So if I knew I technically was supposed to be over them, I would have shifted our reserve guard to the Fletches because X came in and he asked me, did I want to change up the deployment before we started? And I said no because I didn't know that's how the layout was.
Yeah. I think as far as the North is concerned, like I asked that question of the umpires earlier just because like the way the attack went through, like there needed to be reserves up there because if it didn't work like it didn't, it was going to be devastating. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Because
feel like
only players who had like a normal frontage the entire game were like Detali and Dudorov here, right? Because like you look at this guy has to cover all of this,
hmm
and then the other Dudorov down here, he has like the absolute worst of it, right? Because I mean, not only he's covering a forest, right? So he can't even see like normally over here.
right, you're just
And
waiting
I mean,
for things to appear.
this like down here, this was like the biggest mistake of the French, like sorry, the Russians that I saw, just like in the
Right.
planning phase. Like
Yeah.
again, like I'm not even joking. There are 8 brigades held just in reserve down here, right?
Yeah, I
mean,
think historically it's just like there literally is where they had some of the Moscow militia down there, like backing
Yeah,
up,
Cossacks.
backing up,
and I mean,
backing up
that's
the
why.
Cossacks.
the Moscow militia weren't even like really in the belt. They were more of like the rear guard to stop units from retreating too much. Like saying,
Yeah.
"Oh, get back to the fight, come on."
Yeah, I
But-
would have literally just had Second Corps remain there while I moved everything else up to the Fletches.
I
Hell,
think-
I didn't even need all my cavalry down there with me.
You didn't need any.
Well,
In all
I can only
honesty,
assume that they were guessing that we were going to do the Davout plan.
Yeah.
I this is a pretty good deployment if we went through the forest. If we
Which
did
they almost
focus,
did.
yeah, if we did focus south and all of that cavalry to the north hit like what would it have been like? I guess maybe Juno would have been in Borodino, or maybe just me with
Yeah.
just my corps. That could have maybe been better, and then this would have definitely held against us coming out of the forest.
Yeah,
I think even if you guys
for
had
sure.
attacked through the forest, I would have like this is overkill. This is overkill. Like
Yeah.
this is going to be useless for anything outside of this little pocket here, right? Which
Yeah.
if you've lost this pocket, you've already lost anyways, right down here. So the cavalry, like, I told all the umpires basically that like the cavalry just cannot do anything in the woods here. It is incredibly mushy and marshy and thick forests. Like historically, the French were forced to deploy into like ad hoc kind of like assault columns, just trying to make it through the trees, while Russian skirmishers just kind of pick them off.
I
Like
feel
it
like
was-
I feel like Poniatowski attacked from the old Smolensk Road angle historically.
Yes.
I
Yeah, he did.
I think he attacks. It's western for Poniatowski and then northwest from another corps that I forget. But yeah, like it was literally just down the road.
So
But I mean, also like, he can't even see all of his units when he starts, right? Because there's the forest blocking them, right?
the northern cavalry attack could have been devastating if it had waited for either an attack over the river into Borodino with a substantial force, or waited for us to make an attack and then it would have shown up in our rear. I mean, that would have been devastating. But because it attacked immediately, we did send scouts up that way because we, did consider historically that's where Platov's cavalry attack comes in, and that's where you get all the legends of like, oh, they could have won the battle if Platov had been supported. But at the end of the day, like that cavalry showing up immediately was like, oh, okay, we'll just send all our cavalry up there and kill it. Like,
because I was able to repulse them and keep Poniatowski's corps out of it. Like
Yeah.
his corps literally stood on the hill and watched mine just form square and repulsed, and then Marat showed up to chase down Kutuzov, which I think Kutuzov ended the game like pinned up against a creek, so like he's probably getting captured. But I just wanted to ask people's opinions because it just in retrospect it seemed like the northern attack was doomed from the start.
And I mean, that's like, I don't know. I felt just as an umpire, it was kind of painful for me to watch just the difference in preparation on the French side and the Russian side, where the Russian CIC couldn't get like a single response in his planning channel. Just like, do you guys have any ideas? And yeah,
yeah, I'm typically involved, but I couldn't be this week. Not like that. I was like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do. All right, bet. I just didn't have the time. I was fully occupied this week.
That sucks. They did a pretty good job overall.
And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, we had like the France players, and like one of the most meticulously planned attacks I've seen on the server here. The amount of time they spent discussing it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we had
a
a little chat and one night, and then, I mean, I kind of had the timing down for how long I wanted Ney's attack to be, but then everything after that was kind of just like open ended.
I mean, I was
I
supposed
mean,
to attack across at like 7 or 8, and like
Yeah.
I sent a dispatch to Napoleon saying, "Okay, I can attack at like 10:30."
Yeah, I was just like, well, Eugene is spent, but
I mean, to be fair, even with the lack of coordination, but the plan, it would have been fine if we had the people to cover what we needed to cover. We just didn't have the manpower.
I think if you had had the guard up in the center, you guys probably would have done much better. I mean, this is a very hard battle to win as the French. Like it was a good field. Kutuzov doesn't pick the field, and when a staff officer finds it, but like this is not easy to beat. Like if you have a significant cavalry reserve and a guard reserve, the center is very difficult to break, and attacking through the forest isn't really an option, and attacking up north exposes your center. So I don't know. I'm pretty proud with
I
how the
also
French
think
did.
I also think that the Kriegspiel rules don't really like account too much for like Elan. Uh, like I legitimately think that what the French were able to take that day was like super heroic. Like
Oh my god, yeah.
I don't understand how they did it at all, and I don't know how you write a rule set that does that. Like they were driven into like a frenzy to do it.
Mm.
So I agree with the Napoleon that I think this battle is actually kind of hard to win as the French, but it worked out pretty well for us this
Yeah.
time,
I-
mainly because of the Russians just command and control issues. If
I
we
mean,
had went south, I think they would have held without doing anything.
Yeah.
I do think it is kind of funny how they had very similar issues that the Russians had IRL, where they had like way too much artillery on like the wrong flanks that weren't able to get the action at all. Yeah, I don't
And
know. I think you guys did
Bagration and
definitely did do well. And yeah,
Bagration and Totoli did not like each other, and their communication was not great. And there was a lot of internal divisions on the Russian command side because various commanders disliked each other, but also Bagration was very upset that they hadn't attacked the French at that point. So, it's pretty realistic to the conditions that were occurring in the French. I mean, Kutuzov didn't even really care about the result of the battle. He literally just wanted to make a stand so he could say he did and then leave. Like he had zero interest in actually fighting the French. Like
he just didn't like retreating from them,
Yeah,
or rather, like retreating without a fight. I guess.
I'm a little hazy. I think he was ordered to stand, like to not give.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he couldn't give Moscow away without some kind of fight, but
yes, that's exactly it.
it didn't need to. It didn't have to be an end all be all fight. They
Yeah.
just needed to say they fired their muskets in front of Moscow so that they could then burn it.
Yeah.
And they certainly did a lot more than that with the battle ram.
And the Tsar hated Kutuzov, like truly despised him. And so he was always walking a knife's edge of not getting fired. And so he pretty much was like, after Smolensk, he gave himself a precondition that if Smolensk, he was put in charge of the command of the army before the Battle of Smolensk, but by the time he reached the army, Smolensk had happened, and he used that as an excuse to avoid battle with Napoleon until Borodino, and then he gave battle and kind of was just like he didn't half-ass it. I think the myth of him doing nothing during the battle is apocryphal. He was responsible for coordinating between Dotoli and Bagration, and he activated all the reserves that got sent to Bagration throughout the day. There just was I don't think Bagration did a very good job of describing how overwhelmed he was getting at points, but and also Toli was very cautious in sending assistance to him in the battle. But
This
ultimately,
is the battle. This is the battle where Totally dies, right?
Bagration dies. Yeah, he's wounded.
Bagration dies. Yeah.
Yeah, which is very sad because Bagration was pretty cool.
I think it's crazy that Kutuzov like survived getting shot twice in the head.
Yeah, he's wild.
Sometimes you do, man. You got some money to throw around.
No, it was I read a book about Kutuzov. He literally was in a medical seminar where somebody on stage was saying that because his medical case where he was shot in the head became like international news, and there was a doctor on a stage who was saying like, "Oh, it's fake. Like, there's no way that's real. Whoever that person is died," and he like stood up and was like, "Nope, I didn't. I'm here." Like,
That's me.